Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my new or updated patrons, Ben R, Jeff H, KR, Chuck W, Joseph K, Kevin RO, Rick, and Luke A. Thank you all very much for choosing to support the channel. A quick note about tomorrow's video for Tesla's earnings day, always very exciting. I plan to just put out a shorter 5 to 10 minute video at the end of the day after the earnings call, so I can just cover my most exciting takeaways from the day. Speaking of earnings, we got this new note from Credit Suisse, and I want to highlight two quick things. They did raise their price target to 1,125 from 1,025. However, they said this, which is the one metric I will be looking at first when we get the data tomorrow. They say, we expect significant focus on gross margin in the Q1 print. We forecast gross margin X credits of 26.6%. So compare that 26.6% auto gross margin X credits to what Tesla did in Q4 of 29.2. Remember, in Q4, Tesla did 308.6 thousand deliveries, very close to what they did in Q1 of this year, around 310,000. So personally, as I've said before, I think anything over 25% here will be a win given all of the inflationary pressure that we saw in Q1. Because remember, yes, Tesla raised prices. However, it'll take time for those price increases to actually hit the financials because those deliveries won't be happening for a few months. And one more for good measure, this one from Adam Jonas and Morgan Stanley came out today. Notice how the first thing they talk about for Tesla's earnings preview tomorrow is that exact same metric. Automotive gross margin X regulatory credits, they're expecting it to be 28.7% for the quarter. And I just have to say, I won't be that surprised if this figure comes in lower than expectations, say in the neighborhood of 25%, given the inflationary pressure that we saw. So for me, anything over 25%, and I will basically consider the quarter a win for Tesla. And lastly, just so you're aware, the Wall Street consensus for earnings per share is sitting around $2.26, and Credit Suisse is up around $2.56. I personally don't put a ton of stock in this metric just because all of those one-time items will fall down to earnings per share. I like to look at the operating efficiency, but it is what it is, and that's where expectations lie. Shifting gears, just this morning, Tesla's VP in China, Grace Tao, said Giga Shanghai has resumed work smoothly today. Also, 8,000 employees are back to work, which is about half of the full capacity, and they say full speed of production line should be reached in 3 to 4 days. This seems overly optimistic in my opinion given the supplier situation, so I'd be careful with that one, but very awesome if true. And Teslarati adds some more encouraging news. The facility's battery and electric motor production lines are already at full speed, but it's the vehicle assembly line that is still gradually resuming. I'll just say the ramp at Giga Shanghai from here is still a big question mark because of this. Tesla reportedly has about 1 week's worth of vehicle parts in stock for now. So as we know, if even one part runs out of stock because the suppliers aren't back working yet, then Tesla can't do much about that. And here's an important sentiment to remember for all of the Tesla detractors saying now they're running sweatshops in China. Well, some of these workers may actually prefer the situation as they get their meals paid for, they get to work and earn an income, rather than being locked down at home. So just something to keep in mind. Here we have a WeChat announcement from Tesla, and it looks to be official, saying about the mobile connector that as of April 17th, any new orders will need to purchase a charging solution at the Tesla shop. Still working on a solution in the short term, but all current deliveries within the next several weeks will continue receiving the complimentary mobile connector. So if you're out there expecting delivery, make sure you push to get yours. I just had to share these comments with you from the president of Oklahoma's Auto Dealer Association with regard to Bill 512, where they're essentially looking to ban Tesla OTA updates and direct sales in the state and people getting work done at service centers. He says, Senate Bill 512 is a free market, pro-business bill. It does not limit any competition. It does not hurt any consumers from being able to get their vehicle serviced here, get warranty work done here. Further, it actually improves on the ability for Oklahoma to be a top 10 state and also to keep the almost 300 dealer businesses profitable. However, both Tesla and Tesla's lawyers are saying the bill is still a threat. A quick reminder on Tesla insurance, since it has just expanded to 3 more states, Colorado, Oregon, and Virginia. If you're gonna call and get a quote, Remember, on your current policy, get the actual limits and the deductibles and all of that data. And when you call Tesla, share that exact data to see what an apples to apples comparison would be. You may have a lower rate, but they could be offering you a much higher deductible or much lower policy limits. So please just keep that in mind. Rather than just comparing one price to another, you need to know what that price is actually representing. The good news though is there are plenty of anecdotes from just this morning of people in these new states that have called Tesla insurance, like Sean Mitchell, who I would take at his word, who said, just ran the quote, and it's nearly 5 times less expensive for the same policy I had with Progressive, just made the switch to Tesla insurance. Once again, compare the same policy, but a lot of people are seeing very good results comparing apples to apples. And listen to this, Tesla has hired an average of 118 people per day so far in 2022. A quick clarification here if anyone's getting confused. Greenlee only said, I confirmed on several cars now, North American made Model Y and Model 3 cars don't include a discrete AMD graphics processing unit. A discrete one just means it's separate from the CPU, it has its own memory and its own cooling. This is in contrast to the China-made Model Y teardown back in November that did include the GPU, unknown if it's still included. Many people were interpreting this to mean that Model 3 and Ys here in the States don't have that new AMD Ryzen processor, but they do because that is the CPU or the central processing unit. Greenlee only is talking about a separate or a discrete GPU, which is mainly for processing visuals and graphics, presumably for some of those heavier games that Tesla was planning to include in the vehicles. So to clarify, on the S and X, there are 2 separate chips, a CPU and a GPU. Early Model Y from China also had 2, but the ones made in North America today only have the one AMD CPU, which is that Ryzen chip, which will help speed up the processing power, but the GPU is not there. No idea about the current cars made in China. So once again, both the Model 3 and the Model Y in North America do have the AMD Ryzen CPU processing chip. And we have to take a moment to talk about BMW, as they are taking direct swings right at Tesla. And as a fan of competition, I have to say I like it. Only time will tell if they can back it up, but I really hope that they do, because this is not a zero-sum game, and I would love to see somebody push Tesla. BMW Group sales boss Peter Nota believes Tesla had a unique selling point for quite some time, but that's over. Nota has described the upcoming i4, or the Model 3 rival, the ultimate electric driving machine, and honestly, initial reviews have been very positive. BMW is saying the order books are full for the upcoming i4 and iX in the States, and that wait times are around 6 months. Everybody seems to be saying this, but let's see who can actually put production into place. In the first 2 months of 2022, BMW had 54,200 new vehicle registrations in the States, both ICE and EV. This compared to Tesla's 71,250, according to Experian. And for 2022, BMW's goal is to sell 200,000 EVs globally, doubling the number it delivered last year. And it should be noted, BMW was one of just 3 major luxury brands to post a year-over-year sales gain in the first quarter. And it looks like the i4 eDrive 40 will start at 55.4 and the i4 M50 will start at 65.9. And the lower version i4 eDrive is set to have around 300 miles of range and an 83 kilowatt hour battery pack. I'm not sure why, but I was oddly encouraged by this bit of news today, as BP has struck a $1.3 billion deal with an Australian DC fast charging company, Tritium, that will take place over the next 10 years. This is a huge deal because the more these massive conglomerate energy companies that traditionally focus on oil and gas can transition into the electric space and start to make profit there, that will help this transition more than I can really put into words. This agreement will start with just under 1,000 DC fast chargers for the UK, Australian, and New Zealand markets. BP said the money would enable the deployment of more rapid and ultra-fast chargers in key locations. They also said its charging business, known as BP Pulse, would approximately triple its number of charging points by 2030. And we know that right now the demand for EVs is far outpacing the actual infrastructure for public EV charging. And looking at this data, new battery electric car registrations in the UK hit 39,300 in March, a 78.7% increase year over year. This is the highest volume of BEV registrations ever recorded in a single month. Some more exciting news here as Delta Airlines is running initial tests using Starlink for in-flight Wi-Fi. This is a space that desperately needs to be disrupted, and Starlink is set to do this. However, it's going to take longer than I think most people think. Here's some data as to why I think this. The FAA must certify satellite internet equipment to be installed on commercial aircraft. So not just certifications and regulatory agencies, but also these airlines are going to have to take some downtime to install the equipment on the aircrafts. Additionally, the FAA won't comment on any ongoing certification efforts. So we're very early in the process, but this is an entire step that's going to have to take place. And a representative from a consulting firm in the satellite industry has said this is a several-year process to get significant market share. Herbert Diess was actually on 60 Minutes on Sunday, so I just want to talk about a few of his comments. He was asked about VW's decision to pull out of Russia, and he reminded us that VW had about 7,000 employees across 3 different factories in the area. Let's keep in mind, this is not an insignificant amount of talent, and essentially these are now stranded assets for Volkswagen, making the climb to EVs that much more difficult. On the move from ICE to EVs, he said, yes, it's a big challenge. Historically, there haven't been too many cases where the successful companies in the old world could demonstrate that they are successful in the new world. And of course, he was asked about Tesla, and he said, Tesla is quite ahead currently and they're growing fast, I have to admit. He, meaning Elon, is taking more risks than we can. He's now building a plant in Berlin, and I think it's very healthy for us, to have a new competitor. And one last reminder about tomorrow's episode, it will be later in the day, most likely between 7 p.m. and around 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. A shorter video covering my biggest and most exciting takeaways from the Tesla earnings day. Hope you guys enjoy it. Please like the video if you did. Hope you have a wonderful day, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.